I guess it's like coming clean, like actually like telling people how I feel.
Okay.
And the philosophy was actually like facing it head on. Like I got put in a group with my mom and actually had to talk to her.
All right. Okay. And so making sure that you face your problems head on. Okay. Anybody else? Okay. All right. So remember, philosophy is our approach to how we solve problems. It's our philosophical approach. Does that mean the problem is always resolved or gets better?
No.
No. Sometimes we have a philosophy of defeat. Okay. So and we fall apart. Like, and a good example of for this could be dieting. You know, maybe you've had success in the past or you've had failure in the past, and you kind of get into that philosophy of failure, and you feel like you can't do it. You get really stressed out by that. And that happens a lot with some of the women that I work with at the YMCA. And so we have to really stop and talk about what is it that's what roadblock is causing you to return back to these behaviors that are preventing you from moving forward. Okay? So a big part of understanding philosophy is really examining that problem in a very deep way to look at how we respond. We tend, as human beings, just to respond. Right? Just to do something. Just to buy that gadget or marry that man or just something. Just to do it. Because we like to do it. I mean, have you guys ever felt like you just got to do something? You're going crazy. You're in a period where you know you just need to wait and be patient. And you're sick to death of that. So you get up and you do something and you've made the whole thing way worse.
Yeah.
Right? And that is, again, a philosophical approach. But a big, big part, I think probably the greatest gift that we have as human beings is the ability to choose. Not just based on this happened and I have to respond this way, but this happened and now I get to pick how I respond. I can respond this way or I can respond this way. And one of my favorite writers, Stephen Covey, talks a lot about that. He says that ultimately that is the gift that mankind has, is that gift of choice. The pause that you get before you respond. Now for some of us, pause is this big. There's not much space between the stimulus and the response. Some person says that and we just, blah, right? But for others of us, we've learned, if I just wait a second, I can make a better choice. Okay, so thinking about this. Why do I feel this is important? What are the obstacles? What's happened to me in the past? What's happening in society now? Can I overcome these challenges? What can I learn from watching others? My approach to handling my problem is my philosophy, and my philosophy is feet. I'm going to tell you about my problem, my dilemma, and let you guys know. And I think this happened in the last 2 weeks since we met. I think I had shared with many of you that I was going to present at a conference, right? My new strategy. Well, the lady who organizes the conference called me and she said, Amber, I got to tell you something. Only 9 people have signed up for your session. And we'll still have you. We want you to come, but I just wanted to let you know, since you're coming so far from southeastern Michigan, that only 9 people have signed up. And so I thanked her, and I said, you know what, let me just think about this for a minute and get back to you. And so immediately I have an emotional response. What's the immediate emotional response? Sadness, right? Disappointment. That's not what I expected. I expected a large audience that was eager and ready, because my audiences have always been large. Okay? Ready to hear what I had to say. So I had to think about that for a second. All right, I feel sad. And my initial response, and I was really glad I wasn't on the phone with Christy when I made this decision, my initial response was, gosh darn it, I'm going to go. I'm going to go. I'm going to go to that conference and I'm going to do a great job and I'm going to wow and amaze those 9 people. And then I said to myself, but, and this is a question I've learned to ask myself philosophically, is that the best thing to do? Is the best thing to do to go and to wow and amaze those 9 people? And so I sat back for myself and said, you know what, let's try not to be emotional for a minute, but really consider what's going on here. Well, part of what was going on for me is that I had always hoped when I did my presentation I would have my article written, okay? But, and those of you who have presented before, you may know that. Remember when you guys presented at my mom's center? How long did it take to get ready?
A while.
A while. It takes a lot to be really polished and professional. And honestly, at that point I had already invested about 15 hours into my presentation, and I knew I had about 8 to 10 left to go before I was really, really polished and perfect and ready to go. So I said to myself, you know what if I took a step back and instead of going to that conference, I used that 10 hours and I wrote my article. thought about that for a minute. I don't really want to do that. I like going to present because afterwards people get really excited. Oh, Amber, great job, great job. And I love that. Like, woo! You're pumped up, yeah. Where do I go from there? Sure, I've got the great energy, and I've got these 9 people who are all affirming me. Good job, yeah, great job. Where does it go from there? And so I had to look at some of these questions about what's happened to me in the past. Well, I keep saying I'm going to write this article, but I hadn't. And what was happening to me now? And all of a sudden, that cancellation became a gift. It was a gift of 10 hours. So this week, I wrote my article. Yeah, it's done. I'm so excited. I've got some editing left. Hopefully over the next week or 2, I'll have the editing finished, and you guys, I will put it on Blackboard. You can read it. It's about 6 pages right now as it stands. We'll see, probably has to be cut down a little bit, and I'm ready. I'm hoping to submit for publication within the next couple of weeks. It was hard. It was, you know what? I remember I came into work one day. I had kicked myself in the tail to finish everything so I could have a nice big chunk of time. Because the day that I was going to go to present, I just stayed in my office and I wrote. And I said, as I was going in, this is a much harder thing. Because I'm not going off to do my public presentations that I really enjoy. I get people really pumped up and I get myself pumped up. But instead, I'm doing the better, but harder thing for me.
Well, did you reschedule yourself?
Not yet. Not yet, but that article is going to go off to many, many, many publications, and hopefully that will reach a much wider audience. Right. Now, it may not, but I could have talked for the next 2 years about writing my article, and until that article got written, I wouldn't have had the next phase. You know what I mean? So now, even if I send that article off and it doesn't get published, I've tried. I've gone to that next step. I've pursued everything that I've known was the right thing to do, and I'm going to leave it at that. And I have a name for my approach. My new autism intervention is actually called Screen Time Detox. And that came out of writing my article. And it's a period of time where you give up all electronic devices in order to really rebalance yourself. You guys have heard a lot about detox, right? About like a cleansing, like a biomedical detox. This is an electronic detox. And bring back online your creativity and your peace and your ability to meditate and think about deeper things and socially connect with other people. I didn't have that last week, but it was only because this challenge came up and it wasn't what I wanted, but in the end, it was a better place to be. Does that help? Yeah. Okay, so that's really what I want you guys to think about is, you know, I'm talking to you all the time about really seriously, deeply thinking about your problems and thinking about them in a way that kind of separates you emotionally from them. Okay, that's having a more philosophical, reflective approach to your life. And I had to really model that for myself this week. Okay, so, and I encourage you to, you know, keep thinking about those things. Okay, so now my philosophy does have feet. My intervention has a name. Screen Time Detox. Oh my gosh, that's the name of what I'm going to call my book. I'm so excited about it. And I would not have had that if I hadn't faced those challenges. So sometimes the challenges are really what defines us, really what sets us apart, and it really helps us in our path in life. Okay, so education has lots of problems. Like, how do children learn? You guys just watched an incredibly interesting video. Wasn't that interesting? Are you going to be mulling that over? My students from my last class said, I kept showing that to people, asking them, what do you think? And I told you about that school as you guys were coming in. What do you think about that? I mean, how do kids learn? Is it possible that we're getting in the way? Is it possible that we demotivate kids in their learning? Okay? What research is being done about learning? We heard about Miter's project with the hole in the wall and his souls, his self-organizing learning environments. What are the obstacles to consider? There are a ton of them. Actually, I'm really, really, really excited about the discussion questions for next week. They are already online. You can check them out for week 5. I promised you 2 weeks ago that I would find some examples of European childcare and how it's different, and wait until you see. I found this incredible example of early child care for Sweden, and it is just going to blow you guys out of the water. I just put one part online. It's about a 10-minute clip. If you get really interested, and I hope some of you do, you can watch all 3 parts of this documentary that was shown in England about Swedish childcare, but it is just amazing. Just to kind of whet your appetite, one of the things that the Swedish day nurseries do is they actually, or nursery schools do, they let the infants sleep outside. And they, like, if it's, they said, well, we'll put them in if it's less than 10, if it's 10 degrees below 0 or less. So they have an incredibly different approach to childcare. It's very home-like, very family-centered. The children don't have any curricula, but they just are given lots of beautiful, very interesting materials and allowed to explore their own interests. And the scores that the kids end up with by the time they start formal education, it's just, it'll blow your mind. Yes?
Well, something like that I picked up from the other class, from the survey. I went to a Montessori preschool, and it was very home-like. And I really feel like this is something that's just, I've really been thinking about. It breaks down that boundary between home learning and school learning. Like, I feel like school, they are so focused, this is where I learn, that when they get home, they're burned out. And they don't want to learn anymore. So when you have that atmosphere that feels like home, they don't see that boundary anymore. They see learning everywhere.
What a great observation. Absolutely. So really, really thinking about that. What are the failures? We need to learn from our failures. I need to learn from myself. I need to learn that sometimes my desire for public affirmation gets in the way of my own success. I'm really trying to figure that out for me and what that means. And you need to figure that out too. If there's something that you need to do or that you want to do, why aren't you doing it? What's in your way? How can you remove those obstacles? So much of that is about what we believe about ourselves. When I was in high school, I did not believe that I could run. I can't do it, it's too hard. I cannot run. Dang it, I can run. I can run. I mean, really, I can run. And I really, truly did not think I could run a mile, because I remember being in gym class and saying, oh, there's a stitch in my side, it's terrible. But a lot of that was just the mental pressure of, you know, really not seeing myself that way. And so I cannot encourage you enough to really think about those obstacles and think about your own failures and how do you use those to have more success. And what does the classroom teacher do? So we have some pretty big questions in front of us. I mean, I've already told you I dig Montessori. I have a lot of questions, but there's still a lot of things I like about it. But it's very different from Reggio, or maybe not so different. So
I haven't been in a Reggio classroom ever, so I really couldn't compare.
Have those experiences, right, to compare. And you are doing the survey, or you're not doing the survey?
Doing the survey.
Have you been scheduled for a Reggio room? I actually have a connection at Reggio if you're interested.
Yeah, I would love to.
I could definitely send you out there to Lowry if you were interested, and get you set up with an appointment.
Yeah, that would
All right,
be
send
great.
me an email.
Even if I just go just to go and see it.
Have you been to Assumption? I've heard Assumption's pretty Reggio based. Has anybody been to Assumption in that survey class? Another fantastic center. Okay. Did you